Hello and welcome to Zelda Speedruns. Today we have another match of the A Link to the Past Randomizer Challenge Cup. We are in quarterfinals. This is game 3 between latebit and Zenarcane, and commentators for this will be Mayendiem and Proa. Say hello.
Good afternoon to you, all of you Rando fans out there. Thank you for joining us for this Game 3 that is going to decide another one of our semifinalists. Of course, being Game 3, we've got one game apiece going into this. latebit and Zenarcane have had a bit of a back-and-forth series. I am Mayendiem, and I am joined alongside in the booth today by Pro A007. How are you doing?
Very well, very well. So we have quarterfinals down to the final 8. The winner of this match will take on the 28th seed, W. Garrison, who is lurking in the chat, I see. So, taking stock of a future opponent here. And, so for those of you not familiar, this is a standard randomizer, so they'll be doing the route through Hyrule Castle before exploring the world of Hyrule at large. So they'll get a free item from the uncle, plus whatever else they can find along the way. So that may well inform their early decisions.
It's along the same lines as the main tournament, but this is not hard item pool, so things like mail upgrades, the 3rd level shield, butter sword, silver arrows, these are available to our runners today if they happen across them. Not guaranteed, of course.
No, at the very least, they will need a master sword to finish the game, but everything else, and the bow and a couple of other crucial items, of course, but everything else is it's open to whatever. So
and of course, the way these standard starts go, sometimes you just pull something like bombs out of the first chest and you stop worrying about it.
that is a good first item, as you say. Although I don't think they'd be thrilled to get bombs from Uncle right now.
That tends to feel a little less good, but we're late enough into the tournament that it's interesting to see how the runners execute with maybe a little less conventional weapon sometimes.
That is true. So we have Yoshi and Kefka getting a bow from the uncle. All right, so early Eastern is now in play.
And the bow is an interesting one. It's relatively free in that it does a lot of damage and you get plenty of ammo for it, but you still have to kind of pay attention to the guard's movements and execute well with it to get through the escape sequence in a timely manner. It's kind of one of my low-key favorites to see runners get early on.
Yeah, we got a map check, and we have a blue crystal at Hera, red crystal at Eastern, and the blue pendant at Desert. So that's pretty nice for our runners. So again, we have an early crystal right off the bat here. Would not surprise me if one of the runners, depending on the item pool they get, decides to make a run at Eastern early. It's technically out of logic because you need the lamp or the fire rod to light some of these torches, but why not?
Yeah, I can't imagine that the lack of a fire source is going to be the determining factor whether or not these runners are going to have Eastern on their minds in the very near future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does depend, but in a game 3, our runners might be feeling maybe they have to kind of go for broke a little bit here and prioritize the crystals above all else.
And that will be interesting to see that play out on both sides here. Who wants to take the chances and just go for the crystal dungeons, dive as hard and as fast as possible? And who wants to maybe be a little more thorough and, catch that one out-of-the-way check that turns out to have, the flippers for crystals, Palace, or the fire rod, or something that's, necessary but not immediately in the way.
It is all calculated, and it will depend on our runners' I guess, psychology as far as that goes. If you're naturally more aggressive, going for those crystals, then sure, you might want to take a run at this. But, you know, it really, I think the next few items will kind of give us an idea what our runners might be thinking here. Do they go for it, or do they decide to do the usual South Hyrule checks?
And something like hitting up the village first is not the worst thing in the world, particularly early on if you've not picked up any kind of movement items yet. You know, you kind of want the hook shot, the boots would be an obvious one, just to make getting around a little easier, and the village is such a dense item location in the early game that it's pretty tough to turn down.
It certainly is. And it also can give you possible insurance policies, like, a few extra heart containers, perhaps, or, I'm sure our runners aren't going to have any problems doing Eastern with 3 hearts, but if the dark rooms don't go right, then there could be a slight problem.
Especially if you're going to go for the quick strats in the vanilla big key location there and try to damage boost into that anti-fairy cloud, you can be down to 1 heart there really quick, and then you're going into that dark room where if things go that slightest bit wrong, you have problems.
Yeah. So we've already seen Burrito, and we've got the extra key, so the rest of the dungeon items, chests will be items here. We got 10 arrows in Dark Cross Room.
Nice little stick refill, but not helping.
No. And they weren't in really any trouble with their ammo anyways, but yeah. So we'll see what we get from the back of Escape here. Zenarcane is the first one to it. Latebit is just a couple of seconds behind right now due to the map check.
The map check and the key rat didn't really want to play nicely with him, so he needed a couple of extra shots.
So, red boomerang and a baby shield and bombs.
Not a whole lot of indication early from this seed outside of that bow. Are you taking the bow as your, one and only pointer thus far, or are you going to go to the village and see if the seed doesn't want to tell you something different?
Well, at this point, I'd probably be kind of leaning in that direction as well. Oh, a fighter sword. Actually, that makes me feel a lot better about the possibility of doing Eastern.
And there is Zenarcane's confirmation of this map check that we've seen on Latebit's side already.
So both are heading towards Kakariko. Looks like they're both taking the same route. They're going to skip Lumberjack for the moment and just head into the Lost Woods and take care of the 2 item checks here.
It's a perfectly fine play. It'll save you a good 20 seconds. If you don't get back to check that Lumberjack ledge, and it is something, though, you can wind up losing minutes for the 20 seconds you've saved. So, most of the time it's nothing, and it's an easy 20 seconds to save. Every once in a while, it's not.
Yeah. So we had an interesting divergence there. Latebit went for the heart container. Zenarcane is like, nah, I don't need that.
That's an interesting early game choice. Of course, by the same token, you're going to probably wind up finding 1 or 2 more of those in Kakariko Village and feeling pretty decent about your health level.
Yeah, there was a vanilla piece of heart in the hideout, in the thieves' hideout there. So Zenarcane is going to check out the Blind's hideout now.
While we're waiting for him to go down those stairs, we'll jump back and say that he did take a little extra advantage there, getting the guard skip, Latebit deciding to jump down the safe route instead.
We got flippers. And that's about it.
Flippers and our more rupeed runner is going to be sitting on 94 at the end of this, plus the 20 in that chest. So, kind of a low money seed here in the early going.
Yeah, and with flippers, that brings Zora into play, and that's 500 rupees. But bottle vendor costs 100 for that item, so that might inform their strategy going forward, unless they get something really nice here.
Could be another one of those reasons to play to Eastern relatively early, get into that rupee room in the back, pick up the extra, 180 that are in there?
I believe that's correct, yes. Actually, I think it's 90. It's 90, yeah.
Yeah, it's 2 packs of 45, that's right.
Yeah. So, they've already gotten 4 pieces of heart. The bottle vendor has scammed them on a 5% return on investment of their 100 rupees. That's very nice.
Now, if you can go back to him every 9 minutes and can get that, maybe it pays off eventually, but you don't want to be in the area that much. And here we have a glove in the chicken shack.
So that opens a couple more checks. Out of logic, they could make a run at Death Mountain if they wished. Well, never mind.
Now they could make an in-logic run at Death Mountain if they'd really like to.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're in for fast transports here, that's for sure.
Also, that glove giving them the option to Houlihan if they so desired. The flippers would have made that a little more difficult, but now there's another option available.
That's 225 rupees if they want it.
Well, of course, there's probably just a 300 sitting there tucked away in Mini Moldorm Cave, and nobody's actually going to worry about it. But, for the moment, it's something we can speculate about.
Yeah, perhaps. So we're going to check out the library real quick. Can't get it, but just a piece of heart, so not worth the time or trouble. Race game. Last of the CAC checks. A shovel.
And both of our runners having to dodge the bird, they were all ready to flute away and then thought, no, you know what, I probably ought to pick that early fetch quest up.
So yeah, that's a cautious play on their parts. It is a time sink to do this, but in the back of your mind, you're thinking, "Yeah, just be my luck. It's the fire rod or something."
Or maybe something like the Moon Pearl, and it's your last piece of Dark World access, and you have to come all the way back here and make a special trip for it later.
Yeah. So, our visions of a lot of fluting going on, not quite happening right now, as they're heading towards the grove to dig up whatever it is was buried there long ago.
Likely to flute away from here anyway. It's most likely a flute to 7, and it's reasonably quick.
Sankart for our runners, and Zenarcane is heading towards South Hyrule, and so is latebit. So the standard route continues here, and Master Sword, that's a nice pickup.
Yeah, going to go ahead and stick with the early game density plays. The flute drops you off right outside, and then Mini Moldorm Cave is essentially next door.
From there, though, we'll see how they decide to play it, because money has still not been very abundant. Well, there's a half magic. You're not going to turn your nose up at that.
Definitely not, even when you don't have a single item that's actually going to use that magic yet. Sooner or later, you're going to happen upon the fire rod or something else, and you're actually going to want it.
Yeah. So Zenarcane is actually heading to desert right now. He's got a hunch that there might be something in Agina. So this is a low percentage play, but I've seen it pay off a couple of times in this tournament. So And we'll see if Zenarcane gets a nice little bit of a boost here.
That is an interesting choice. I really would have expected something more like latebit did, and at least to play over to Mini Moldorm first, since it's not really going to get closer. And, well, hello, Hookshot.
And Magic Powder. Wow. Getting all the goodies early on here. Yeah, unfortunately, it was just the single arrow of truth for latebit for Zenarcane, so that's unfortunate for him. Now, latebit is heading up to Death Mountain. Is not saving the old man just yet. Wants to take a look at up at Spectacle Rock here.
And Zenarcane has found out that the Hoarder has big 20s popping out.
Yeah. So that's a nice find there. He's already up to 349 rupees as a result. Will not get much help in Mini Moldorm as far as his financial situation is concerned. We got a Fire Rod up top, so Mirror has got to be somewhere nearby.
That could well be the intended first fire source. Zenarcane also seeing that the stun prize is the full magic decanter.
Yeah. So...
And to backtrack to a moment for latebit's play, not saving the old man seems kind of interesting. It would be out of logic, but that's not one of those things that tends to stop runners who've made it into the top 8 of the tournament.
Certainly not, and for no other reason, it's a save point, and we got the Book of Medora, so, perhaps, the mirror is, in desert. That gets you your fire source. Wouldn't that be something?
That sounds like the kind of thing Rando would do.
Silver arrows, wow. And 2 canes, so the seed is giving today. It's being very generous.
That is a fairly high-powered mountain, especially once our runners find a mirror and can add that fire rod to the stash.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And Zenarcane does have the money now to pay off Zora.
Took a full 3 trips through the Hoarder there over by Mini Moldorm Cave and the Dam to make sure that he had enough rupees to be getting by on.
Yep, and now he is making his way up check Lake Hylia Island. And just 20 bucks there. And yeah, we got an interesting swimming sprite from Kefka here.
Is either being assisted or attacked by Ultros. It's difficult to tell.
Maybe he turned into Ultros, I don't know. But you know, some kind of cosplay or something. All right, so
looks like latebit done on the mountain is also going to go ahead and do these flipper checks. Now, Zenarcane has done a couple of those more one-off-ish locations in Ice Rod, Cave, and Agina. And I find myself in full agreement with the opponent for whichever one of these runners wins this game. W. Garrison there in chat saying feels like getting the hookshot in Mini Moldorm Cave has everything that he realistically wants to do Eastern and Saha's Closet at the moment in hopes of finding Hammer or Mirror.
well, and speaking of Dark World access, you got Moon Pearl there in the waterfall. So Zenarcane. And we got Quake on off the side here. That's interesting. Could be required.
Could be. Of course, the flippers have already paid out in that moon pearl, so you kind of look at that Quake medallion and you say, well, I'm here, I'm going to pick it up, but I don't know how much I'm counting on this one.
Yeah, and it's not quite the same as, say, Bombos, which actually has multiple utilities. Quake is a little more limited in how often it gets used. But, you know, can't really say no, although we can say no to Zora scamming our runners once again.
Surprise, surprise, what else would you expect from the scam fish?
I guess, but man. So Zenarcane has our first save and quit at almost 20 minutes. latebit does not have the money to pay off Zora. Luckily, it's not needed.
One of those
but
things
we'll
that's probably going to weigh on his mind later, but, you know, as long as he doesn't get locked out of anything, he saved the time farming the money that Zenarcane spent.
Yeah. Yeah, so Zenarcane is is going to save the old man, something latebit did not do yet. Did pretty much everything else. Not sure what.
I think this is a Hylia Island check. I don't think latebit swam over while he was on his way to Hobo.
I thought he did, but apparently not. Anyway, so just a bug catching net for Zenarcane from the old man. Nice for the swag, but not required for finishing.
You know, always nice if you wind up with a bottle in inventory and nothing in it, you could bottle a fairy. It's a nice safety to have on hand.
Yeah, and latebit does indeed have a bottle. Came with a fairy this time. So Saha's closet. Well, already got mirror shield 20 minutes in. There you go.
The seed keeps on giving. The full heart container is probably the more interesting thing to latebit there. You know, getting up to a full 8 hearts is pretty decent for the early game.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you're hoping to be in Dark World fairly soon, and most things there wind up doing at least 2 hearts of damage, and then it scales up.
"20 minutes in, we actually have our first visit to a dungeon. So, can be completed. It's out of logic, technically, because of dark rooms, but that shouldn't be an impediment for latebit or Zenarcane, for that matter. So, there are 3 items in here.
And it'll be interesting to see just what they are, because we are starting to run a little low on checks, and we need to find our way into the Dark World somehow.
Yeah, with the Book of Medora, a desert is in play. Cannot be finished without a fire source, and it's a pendant on top of that. But nevertheless, it is an added play for our runners here. So latebit got its first of 3 items with getting $5.
Yeah, it's a potential couple of items there in Desert Palace, but one of those things, you know, again, as you said, a pendant dungeon, you probably don't want to just be there unless you're really forced into it.
Yeah, no. But though, well, there's item number 2, the Bombos medallions. We're 2 for 3 on that. So in terms of required items here, we're actually closing out a lot of these already. We haven't seen the Dark World yet, so we don't know what is or isn't required. We could be looking at an Ice Rod endgame, though.
That's entirely possible, and it looks like latebit, unless he just decided not to check the big chest on the first loop, has a vanilla big key on his hands, meaning that this is entirely illogical without the lamp.
Yeah, I believe that's correct. Yeah, the big key is in its vanilla location because it was mapped 5 rupees and bombos.
And there it is, as expected, that big key in its vanilla location. Zenarcane going to give us the check of the small child. Just a little bit of love there.
Yeah, nothing doing there. So yeah, desert looks like it is indeed the play, unless... Yeah. Oh, the mirror. Wow. That was the other item I thought could be, turning this into an end game. So Fire Rod is now in play, but it's still out of logic.
Which says we may well be looking at a lamp in Desert Palace to come put all of this back into logic. That's not necessarily the thing. We could find some other form of Dark World access there, either the hammer or the other glove upgrade, and the lamp could be buried somewhere in Dark World, but that mirror looks like it's going to allow our runners to kind of sequence break around the whole problem.
Yeah, it is. Did we check PED yet? No, but we can. Runners haven't really been in the neighborhood for a little while, but, you never know.
Stranger things have happened.
I think at this point it'd have to be either a medallion or ice rod to actually be required. Or, yeah. Yeah, I think those are really the only things it could be.
You could always go with something silly like boots.
Yeah. But silvers, that's a trivial fight, and we have our first crystal at 2434 from latebit.
Taking an early crystal count lead, but I do believe Zenarcane's going to be evening that one back up here shortly.
He will be. From this, the next move here, he's gonna check with Sick Kid, and after that, well,
I can't imagine he does anything but go right back up the mountain and get the fire rod and clear out Hera. I mean, if he wants to make all of this logical, he can go to desert really quick, but, I feel like the sequence break is immediately obvious.
Yeah, and he is going to take care of the old man now and get his bug net, which is fine. It gets you that warp point on top of everything else.
And it's easy enough to get whenever you want when you have the flute. It's not like you're not going to be standing right next to it when you flute to one anyway.
True enough. Latebit making his way back with the old man, using that Master Sword as kind of a guide.
And we saw some really nice hookshot movement tech from Zenarcane there in the dark, using the pots in the room with the small key to kind of navigate around a little more quickly and efficiently.
So, yeah, all things being equal, latebit has a slight lead on Zenarcane. The one big thing that Zenarcane did that latebit didn't was pay off Zora, but we know Zora has nothing, so it's not really an advantage, but it could factor into latebit's routing later.
There's that, and also the other kind of general one-off Spear 1 checks in Ice Rod Cave and Nagina that are, you kind of hope to wait for boots at this point, but if he does go back to check them later, he will be giving that time back to Zenarcane.
Yeah, so because he has Master Sword and the book, he can check Ether and get some money to fall from the heavens. Oh, if only that were actually true in real life.
If only people would pay me by the number of books that I read.
Yeah, that would be nice. Oh, there's the hammer, so Dark World access is now officially a thing.
And it becomes yet more likely that the sequence broken item is in fact the lamp.
Yeah. Alright, so one of 2 items already on the books for latebit. Zenarcane using those silvers, grind the Armless Knights into dust, and gets his first crystal at 2750. So both are on the board now at 1-1.
And with that mirror in hand, and having already checked the small child, let's see, does Zenarcane want to go ahead and see about putting this back into logic with the play to desert, or is this going to be a play up the mountain after Saha's Closet?
Yeah, dude. I guess it depends on how generally he goes to field it. Well, Green Pendant is Turtle Rock, so Ice Rod might not even be required. So, we could be looking at an early go mode here.
We still have the mitts outstanding, the lamp is a technicality, and perhaps the boots, but other than that, our runners are in really good shape for doing the things they need to do to beat the seed already.
Yeah. Yeah, this could be really interesting here. We know the mitts are going to be required for one of the 5 because there are 5 crystals, and you need the mitts to access the last 3.
And there's latebit claiming a very brief 2-to-1 crystal edge at 2920.
So, looks like the second red crystal was ice, and the second pendant in Dark World was Mire. So, yeah, this is getting interesting. It looks like latebit is going to do a kind of a low percentage play here and do Spike Cave. He's got a fairy in a bottle, and he's got the blue potion on top of that. So, and he's got Cane of Burna, so he's fine.
Yep, Cane of Burna, half magic, more than enough hearts to kind of slog through the beginning with. It's just 3 hundo though.
Yeah. So nothing much there. latebit, pay off Zora if he wants. So
looks like a play into the Skull Woods and Village of Outcasts area here. It's it's looking like mitts go mode, barring boots.
it seems so, yeah. Everything else is in play, so we could be looking, depending on how hard they have to work for this. Boots on Laser Bridge for Ganon Tower Big Key. Now that's cruelty.
Oh, come on, Tyler Salt. Why not just put them on PED at that point?
So latebit can knock out 2 crystals in pretty quick order here with Skull and Beachtown, and that's 6 items right there, plus whatever's in Village of Outcasts.
2 crystal dungeons that are very much on the way. Sure, the density is maybe a little lower than you might hope, but by the same token, you're here, they're here, and if you find the mitts while you're in the area, you're sitting pretty.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you could technically think our runners could be technically at 6 crystals before they even need to lift a finger towards Ice Palace, which is where crystal number 7 will be, because they can complete these 2 plus Swamp plus Pod.
And depending on how thorough they want to be, they can just kind of make a bit of a Dark World loop out of it. Smith Chain is obviously not going to have their mitts, so yeah, I mean, you just kind of keep going to those crystal dungeons you can full clear. The options are immediately available.
Yeah, latebit actually passed up on a fairy there. Would have put him back at 9 hearts, but feeling comfortable with what he's got, and Zenarcane is tied it up at 2, 32-32. So the route has been linear so far. As far as crystals go, there's not been really any room to really make any interesting maneuvers.
I see the conversation ongoing in chat about picking up the quote-unquote lamp in desert in case it turns out to be a very Mitz-shaped lamp.
Yeah.
I understand exactly what you're saying, and I do agree.
So down goes Mothula.
And Zenarcane has chosen to do something a little bit different here and has started his Dark World trek at Hype Cave.
He might be leaning more. He might be leaning more towards density.
It's entirely possible making the play into Swamp here and then going to Pod for the extra items over the Skullwoods Thieves Town area does make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah, there's 6 items here in Swamp. You did not opt to do Bombos first. Thought that might have been, maybe that's after the fact, but
it'll be interesting to see how Zenarcane chooses to route in some of those mirror checks, because it looks like latebit's just going to be able to make the clean sweep, starting up here at Skullwoods and then going right on down through.
yeah. Yeah, he's still looking for those 2 items. He was over in the back.
It feels like Skullwoods always has the items tucked away in the last place you look. It doesn't matter where you look first, it's always where you end up looking.
There is a certain logic to that, yes. There's the boots. First chest in Swamp.
So the concern about boots locking the GT Big Key goes away.
Yep, and looks like the big chest is holding item number 2. So unfortunately, nothing of value in Skull Woods for latebit other than the crystal.
And with those boots being that latebit's going to do Thieves Town next, Zenarcane is going to gain some time back on him there. There are a lot of long straightaways in that dungeon that Zen is just going to be able to dash right on through.
There's the second boomerang, the blue one. The red one was in back of escape.
Now our runners have their choice of boomerang, or at least latebit does. You can use the blue one, the red one, or the superior iron one.
Chess game, he lost 9 rupees all told. It's $30 to play it. He got 21 opening those chests.
And latebit, it looks like, is going to go ahead and go for that sweep to the south. Checked the other 2 locations, but is leaving the brewery for after Thieves Town.
So latebit picked up red swords, so that'll make Ganon much easier, and a couple of these other boss fights easier as well. Although with silver arrows, you don't have to worry too much.
So we have some kind of alternative advantages there. Zenarcane with the boots, but latebit now with the superior firepower.
Yep. So there's the big key. So, not much. The red sword notwithstanding, not much up front. There are 4 items in this dungeon. And latebit can get them all. Zenarcane also kind of feeling the effects of the first item delivering promise that's not quite fulfilled, though.
$50 and some bombs over there on left side swamp. It is 2 items. It'll be interesting to see what latebit does with that if he decides to go to the back first and knows that there are still 2 items left in the dungeon if the mitts have not appeared by then.
Well, yeah, because that'll be his next dungeon after he's done here in Thieves Town, more than likely. So that could play a factor here. There's the big key for Zenarcane. Not going to go back. See if he does decide to go back after he's done here. I'm sure he's keeping
Probably
count on
opened
it.
Yeah, he opened the menu to see, and he's still missing the map at this point. So if the boss drops him one more item, then he doesn't have to go back.
That's true. Yeah. So So a coin flip here. Zenarcane riding Ultros or being eaten by Ultros. I'm still not exactly sure which. On his way now to Argus, and again with the items he has, it's going to take Zenarcane a little longer here because he only has blue sword, and it takes 2 swings or one charge swing to get rid of these popcorn shrimp, if you will.
It's not too bad with having to do the spins, but sometimes, especially when Argus gets up near the top there, getting 2 puffs hooked can be pretty difficult.
Mm-hmm. Alright, so he's done here. 1 silver arrow later, drops him, and okay, so the map was picked up from Argus.
I have to imagine, since he decided to go for that left side swamp play so early, he's going to be going back in here for the last item.
Would think so. No. He is gonna gamble that not required.
Alright, that's a pair of interesting choices then. Going to make the safe play and check left side swamp first, but then going to leave an item behind in the dungeon.
So late bit underway against Blind, a scripted 3-phase fight. 9 hits regardless of what sword you have. And a very easy fight for late bit. Will put him up to 4 crystals.
In just those few moments after Zenarcane picked up crystal number 3.
For now, we're getting a look at some of the checks late bit's about to do. Stumpy and K45, and so those will be coming up in minutes. We're actually getting kind of a high five from our runners, even if it's indirectly.
Well, Zenarcane's not going to be able to continue on this route after the dig game without the mids.
That is correct. Yeah, he's going to have to go back to the light world and take the back route in.
But latebit can't really see Zenarcane zipping along ahead of him with those boots. But at 42 minutes, we have arrived at essentially the same place.
Yep, same place, but very different routes. 13 digs to get 3 bombs. Neither is particularly interested in that. Latebit is going to be heading south towards a swamp. Zenarcane is going to be heading north towards Thieves Town and Skull Woods.
It is interesting the way this played out in that the myths were not between Thieves Town and Swamp Palace, because that could have turned into a situation where latebit just does not find the boots.
Yeah, maybe not. That is possible. That could have interesting effects. Chat's saying, wondering why Zenarcane didn't make a run towards Pod next.
Yeah, I have to say I'm not sure. I felt like after the Swamp Palace play and he wanted the density there, that Pod made a pretty obvious next option.
Well, and by the same token, this, Skull Woods and Thieves are pretty short, and Pod's going to take a while, so maybe he's feeling that go-moding those two. Go-moding that is the better choice. Thinking a big clockwise Dark World loop, that's also possible, sure.
That is one way to get Catfish into the mix, and Zenarcane also going to gain a little advantage here over latebit in that he's doing Thieves before Skull Woods and will have that Tempered Sword for Mothula.
Yeah, but with half magic, it's not really that much. I mean, you're mostly going to be using Fire Rod anyways.
Given the option, I like Tempered Sword a little better, but, the Fire Rod with half magic does get the job done.
Yes, it does. Alright, so latebit. Get ready to set up for Swamp. Zenarcane's through the opening section of Thieves Town.
Yeah, it's probably a good time, as we're going to see some checks that both of these runners have made just in the opposite order, to say, well, we're 45 minutes into Game 3 here. If you're enjoying what you're seeing, we've got a couple of great runners here. One of them is going to continue on to the semifinals, and the other one is unfortunately going to have their tournament life come to an end, but latebit and Zenarcane putting on the show for your enjoyment. Please give them both a follow. Happen to know that they both play plenty of rando in their time when they are not competing in the Challenge Cup tournament. Also, we should probably say thank you to Siberian for pulling the restream together, doing all of those technical things that we need to make sure that this actually gets up and off the ground. Our trackers, Yoinker's Wife, and Home Wrecker. And of course my co-com, Pro A 007.
Yes. Yeah, it's definitely a collaborative effort for sure, and you guys, the ones, your viewing and your support makes that possible. And speaking of support, we have a raid, Scottish Brave 44 raiding with a party of 5. Welcome to Game 3 of this quarterfinals Challenge Cup match.
You have come in on an interesting one. The seed has been very generous early and often, and we are looking for Mitts. Mitts go mode here.
Yeah. Everything else is in play. The one interesting variable right now is Desert is a pendant. Neither runner has really made a concerted effort towards that. So we'll see what latebit decides to do here. Zenarcane did a full left side sweep, and it looks like latebit's doing the same.
To kind of hit the highlights for our raiders and anybody else who is coming in a little late, Eastern, of course, as you can see on the tracker, was a crystal. The big key was in its vanilla location, so Eastern was lamp locked. That big key in its vanilla location led to the mirror out of logic in the big chest, which gave our runners the fire rod on top of Spectacle Rock. So the question is the lamp hiding out in the Dark World somewhere here, and our mitts are in Pendant Desert Palace, which would have given us our Dark World access? Or is it just the lamp hiding out in Desert Palace and we don't worry about it?
Added up at 4 there, by latebit, excuse me, by Zenarcane taking out blind. So yeah, so Desert Logic is really the only variable in play right now that could swing this race. And we'll see how our runners, sort of reconcile all this. Zenarcane heading north now towards Skull Woods. We'll probably get his 5th crystal shortly. The book was Paradox Cave, I believe.
That sounds right.
I'm pretty sure.
It's just becoming a question of where is that thing we're looking for, and Desert Palace is still in play to the best of my ability to read it.
The late bit also is going to ignore the big chest for the moment. We'll see if he decides to go back. He did check Bombos already, so maybe that'll inform his decision making. Zenarcane is gonna do some checking here early. We know that both of the item dungeons and Skull are actually in the front of the dungeon.
And this is going to be both of our runners catching yet another crystal here in the very near future. Latebit going to absolutely chop Argus down to size with this tempered sword, and we'll probably see Zen in about 30 seconds doing exactly the same thing to the moth.
But had a little trouble there lining up the shot. Needed 2 tries. Needed to miss twice before he got it. Gets 5th crystal at 50-50. So he's up 5-4, but it's about to be 5-5 in about 15 seconds. Maybe less.
An exceptionally clean moth kill there, starting with that dash poke. Only 2 spikes having a chance to spawn. Very nicely done on Zenarcane's side, tying that crystal count right back up.
Yep. So now looks like latebit is going to take care of pod now, make it 6, and hope that somehow the mitts show up. And yeah, latebit also saying no thanks to big chest in swamp.
That's an interesting choice. It would not be the first time this tournament that I have seen mitts tucked away in the last possible location in Swamp Palace. And to answer Oro's question in chat, no, both of them have been doing pretty much exactly the same things, just in mildly different order.
Yeah, latebit started Dark World in between Skull Woods and Thieves Town, so he's been doing kind of a south to east loop here. Yes, latebit did do Spike Cave. It was a bust.
Speaking of doing things that might be a bit of a bust, we have Zenarcane here down to 1 heart.
Yep. Kind of taking some... Yeah, hearts are not exactly easy to come by here. He does have a bottle with a fairy should all else fail, but I don't think he really wants to go that way. Well, he gets a refill anyways. Thanks
That
to
was
that
timely.
piece of art. Yeah, it always is my experience.
Except, of course, when it drops off of a boss and you were going to get the refill anyway.
So nothing at Bumper Cave. Zenarcane is actually now going to do the lumberjack check.
It's a good time for it with the boots, with the mirror, can just kind of tie this in with his Northern Dark World loop.
I think that was $20.
I think that was $20. And unless I've terribly missed something, it's been keys, keys, keys all the way down on latebit's side.
Yeah, it certainly has. Yeah, nothing doing right now.
The easier way to get through Palace of Darkness is to just raid the janitor's closet and pick up the entire key ring. And Zenarcane has found a blue mail there in the Bonk Rocks. Seems at least a little unlikely that latebit is going to find those at this late date. And it's more keys down here in the basement, while Zenarcane has a look there into Graveyard Ledge. Graveyard Ledge has the cape. But he's already shown us the bumper ledge, and I don't think he's going back for it. Latebit with a nice hammer up there finds a bottle with a B in it. It's an item at least, but not the kind of thing he was looking for. Ten more sticks in the dark, King's Tomb coming up empty. The options are once again dwindling just a little bit, aren't they?
Yeah, we're starting to really, it's like the seed is all but saying, go to desert, and our runners are kind of resisting the call here, not completely without merit. They certainly have things they can do and all that. And we got a catfish check now from Zenarcane.
It does seem that those calls from the seed are getting louder and louder. Pendant Desert Palace is where you need to be.
Yeah, of course, if this were a crystal desert, they would have handled this 30 minutes ago. But that's the way it goes sometimes. Zenarcane is going back to the Dark World here. Looks like he might be doing a pyramid check before heading to pod, it seems. Otherwise, I think he would have gone to number 5 if he were going straight to pod like latebit did.
That seems like the play. He knows with a Mitz Go mode situation that he's never coming here to check the Pyramid Fairy. The other red crystal being there on Ice Palace is not going to do him any good.
And unfortunately, just a vanilla piece of heart there on Pyramid Ledge.
And latebit putting the fire rod to great use, dealing with the turtles there in that dark room, and then the blue cane to dash through the last ones.
17 hammer strikes on Helmasaur King's Mask. Getting a little bit of trouble here. He's got bodied a couple of times by Helmasaur.
Helmasaur more than happy to do 2 full hearts of damage every time you walk into him.
Latebit gets the silver arrow off before Helmasaur could really move, and gets his 6th crystal at 58.43. So he is in the lead, all intents and purposes. But now it's down to the final check for the final item, which is Titan's Mitts. He's gotten 6 crystals without it, but now he needs to get that 7th.
And has left behind a lot of those overworld checks that Zenarcane was routing in. Both of our runners have left behind that big chest in Swamp Palace. But here we are, let's try to put all of this back into logic finally. Latebit going to Desert.
Yep, there are 2 items here.
Has everything he needs to get both of them if it really comes to that, but obviously hoping, maybe I can just get away with making a check, find the mitts that I'm looking for, and be done.
He does. He'll be very much in the driver's seat. Okay, there's the big key.
I feel that small key on the torch is a little less interesting given that those boots were in the Dark World, but we shall see.
And there it is.
Okay, that at 1 hour and 23 seconds, Latebit has entered Go mode.
So, I wonder how Latebit is feeling about this right now.
When you're on a jet seed, you're always worried that your opponent has hit the jet seed and is out executing you.
And this is one of those cases where he could be a real nervous wreck because Desert was really in play for a long time. The mitts were really there for the taking if you made the play. And yeah, it's a bit of a time sink perhaps, but it was always there, and now that it's not.
By the same token, though, if your opponent takes those mitts early, maybe they've dipped a good chunk of Dark Death Mountain and given you some time there. Maybe they've gone over to the Mire area, checked the Mire Shack, giving you some time there. There are ways that those mitts could absolutely come back to bite you in this seed.
That's true. Looks like Latebit's going to set up Icebreaker here.
It's a handy piece of tech that allows you to use the most broken item in the game, the Cane of Samaria, to convince the game you're still in that door, and it tries to force you out of the door by forcing you right through the rail. Latebit making a check on the way, finds that it is not a small key, has to go back up because you do need a small key to go through that door when you've done Icebreaker.
Luckily, a free one is handy.
And it looks like Zen has completed the top of the Palace of Darkness here, is headed for the boss now, probably?
Yeah, be my assumption. Latebit, ready to take on, Cold Stare for crystal number 7. There, it'll be a dead sprint to the finish line. The only thing that's maybe holding him back a little bit right now is he only has 10 hearts and his green mail. And yeah, he's got silvers, so that negates some of the concern, but you don't want to get into a physical match with Ganon.
Ganon will happily hug you on green mail for 8 full hearts. Speaking of getting hugged by things, these cold stare puffs will do 4, and the falling ice will do 2. You'll see as Latebit falls down to 1 heart there before managing to wrap that fight up.
Right, so Latebit has 7 crystals at 103.45. Wow.
Sometimes you hit the jet seed, and sometimes the jet seed hits you. So here we are, we have our bot activated already. We play the game a little differently here on ZSR. You are allowed to place your bet with that location 1 through 22 of where you believe that big key is hiding from Latebit today.
I went 18. I feel like for him, he doesn't need the help, but getting some extra items and probably getting a little more health would not be a bad thing right now. Give him a little bit of breathing room. Zenarcane dealing with Helmasaur King. Not going for silvers, but 3 sword swings were enough to take him out.
It gets the job done and raises his crystal count to 6, but barring some very problematic execution on Latebit's side, this is pretty close to decided, unfortunately.
It is. Again, the green mail does bring a few question marks into this, just because, as you say, Ganon can and will do damage, and even with silvers, it's got to be careful in those first couple of phases, just to make sure nothing happens. He does have a fairy and a bottle, and he does have a blue potion, so he should be okay, but, he's going to have to play a little defensively.
And that is one of the considerations, having to make sure that you don't take those hugs from every little thing in here. Again, we're still dealing with Dark World enemies. The damage tends to start at 2 hearts and go up from there. Once you start getting bodied, particularly in the Gauntlet, it can be a little difficult to recover, and the safeties will only go so far.
Yeah, that is true. Right, so we are now underway here in Ganon's Tower. Zenarcane, he's gambling on some of these one-offs. Checking Magic Bat right now. Item number 1 was, I believe, 10 arrows. No value there. So, Latebit now checking 2 through 5. I got an extra heart container.
And Zen pulled the red mail there off of the Magic Bat, so the safety's not really going to increase all that much for Latebit unless there are some more heart containers outstanding here before he finds the big key.
6 and 7 were strikeouts. Latebit committing to the right side.
And I think we're getting Spike Cave here from Zen.
I think he's kind of in panic mode. He really does not want it to be desert, and he's really kind of going for he's mildly out of the way. Checks which Latebit did as well, but they're not hurting him really in the same way they're going to be hurting Zenarcane right now. There's a drug deal. What is that? That's 11, I believe, right?
That is 11.
Yes, we're halfway home. It's not committing to the right side at all, so...
Nope, just wanted to hit the quick density as early as possible and is now going to go ahead and go full left by all appearances.
Yeah.
While Zen is going to go back for that big chest in Swamp Palace.
Okay, he's going to do big chest in Swamp. Zen is looking for Titansmiths, which were in Desert.
Unsurprisingly, given the way this is shaken out, they were not even boots locked.
Yeah.
The Seed gave our runners that early book and said, here you go, this is your logical Dark World access, and pulling that mirror out of a logic allowed them to bypass it for quite some time.
Next, 12, no, 13, no, 14, 15. Ugh. Wait, no, I miscounted. That's
17.
That's 14. That's 17. Yeah. I always forget
Easy
about
to kind of miss
others.
the fire bar and the fire snake checks tend to be a little easily forgotten in amongst all of the actually dense locations.
Yeah, we don't see those pay off very often. That's probably why.
And here is Zen making that play that we all know he needed to make, and unfortunately he needed to make it quite some time ago.
And 18 is correct. Hey, I was right.
Well, there you go. Congratulations to you as latebit starts the climb. Already down to 5 hearts here. He is going to have to be a little careful, although as you've noted a couple of times now, he does have the safety of that fairy in a bottle.
He does. I wouldn't be surprised if he makes a pit stop on the way up to the gauntlet just to get an extra. 'Cause he's got the bug catching net, so he could easily stop, get another fairy because he can. It's a fairy with a bug, but no, he's going to continue on.
Has no time for that. The Seed has been this jet, probably thinking my opponent is going to not done any second now. I have got to go.
Yeah. And he's experienced enough to where a lot of this probably does not phase him. But, yeah. The Zenarcane is in go mode, but about 10 minutes after latebit did. So latebit very much in the driver's seat. He's to the final room of the 4th floor gauntlet. He is going to stop to pick up that fairy, get him back to 10 hearts. So Landmolus did not actually have to deal with these guys because the item was up front using silvers. He makes quick work of them.
That was a very interesting way when you wait the time to spawn that the fairy off of the bunny beam, you also get the first couple of landmollas jumping up at the same time, but he really did manage to clean that up nicely.
Yeah, it's a nice one cycle there by latebit. So, alright, so it's a little low on magic. He's got to be kind of economical with his usage here, because he does not have the lamp.
There is another small decanter down here that's going to work out for him, then he's going to be forced to take that full magic decanter here in the eye laser room.
Yep. Alright, so on his way up, Zenarcane almost to Cold Stare. We'll have a slightly easier go of it because he has Blue Mail from Bonk Rocks. But, so that just means Cold Stare won't hurt him too much. latebit has no interest in checking any of these chests. He is confident in everything he needs with 12 hearts.
He's more or less going to commit to a stand-hard fight here. We could be on main tourney settings aside from that mirror shield.
Yep. Did check the final chest of the game. It was a piece of heart. We already picked up his heart upgrade earlier. Nice quick fight by Zenarcane. Oro saying decanter is such a lovely word. It is a nice word. You don't get to hear that often enough. Alright, so Agate 2 underway here for latebit. Nice double there.
Exceptionally questionable patterns, but latebit seems to be making the most of it.
Yeah, he's that's a nice setup. Should finish the job here, and there it is. 1-2, 1-2.
Zenarcane up onto the mountain and is charging over to the tower just as fast as he can, but latebit is leaving the tower in light of the pig, and away we go.
With silvers and red sword, this will be quick. It's 12 hits for the first 2 cycles each. Shouldn't... Okay, you got hit there by the pitchfork.
This is a really nice spot for phase 2, though. You can just tuck yourself right up here and spin to win.
Good use of the King of Burna just to kind of protect himself from the fire bats, and now we're in phase 3.
2 more hits to get through that, and then 4 silver arrows into the pig is going to do the thing that latebit wants it to do.
Yep. Yeps, indeed. So, silver, my one true weakness. Yes. Alright, this should... There's not going to double there. One more hit, and that is it. latebit is moving on to the semifinals of the Challenge Cup. Get out your GGs for latebit, who will be finishing with an official race time of 1 hour, 16 minutes, and 40 seconds. And Zenarcane has withdrawn from the race, seeing the result, and we are welcomed by our 2 competitors, latebit and Zenarcane, to the chat. GGs.
Yo, GG latebit.
GG's. Oh man, what a roller coaster.
That is an apt description. You guys were basically one item from go mode for about 35 minutes.
Something tells me we were not looking for the same item.
I was looking for mitts.
You both were looking for mitts. That was the only thing. holding you back really from rocketing through this seed in probably 60, 65 minutes.
Yeah, it was pretty jet. Usually you feel pretty good about Mit's go mode, but when you stumble upon them and they're in a pendant dungeon that you had super early access to, it doesn't feel quite as good.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
never booked.
It's never booked. This time it was, and yeah, that because you had access to 4 crystals right away that you could run through pretty quick, but those myths just kind of keeping you from Ice Palace, and once Pod was taken care of, 'cause that was the 6th one for both of you, then it turns into, oh boy, it's like, it's not here, where is it?
Yeah, I was tempted to chase those boots that I got in Swamp, but I said, well, let's go get the bad news in Desert first, and turned out to be good news.
Yeah. Yeah, Zenarcane, that was actually, Swamp was actually the first crystal you did in Dark World. Did it cross your mind to just maybe take a peek into Desert, or were you committed to the crystal clearing strategy?
I was committed to crystal clearing. I had everything but ice available, really.
Mhm.
Like, not in logic, obviously, but had it
Right.
completable, so I was going to go do that and clear everything along the way.
Yeah, that was the other interesting aspect of this is, we were pretty much 100% certain that it had to be Lamp or Mitts, really, based on the way things were shaken out in Desert, and either one of them would have opened up certain things to you guys. Yeah, so, but yeah, we totally, I think, sympathized with the crystal clearing strategy. We kind of actually assumed going in that that was going to be the play for both of you. It's like, as soon as you were ready and able, you were going to just knock out crystals as quickly as you could.
Yeah, when there's that many of them, I really don't see a reason not to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely. So late bit now, you move on to the semifinals, and your opponent will be W. Garrison. Thoughts on your future opponent?
Have not had a chance to face off with them directly, to my knowledge, but they're in the semis, so got to be strong. Just hoping to put on a good show.
Yeah, and definitely. And Zenarcane, unfortunately, this wraps it up for you. Your thoughts on your play in this tournament?
I'm honestly surprised I got as far as I did, so I'm really happy about that. And hopefully, come back next year either to this or to maybe even make main if I keep, doing well and getting better and improving.
Yeah, is there anything you want to improve on for the next go round, or is it just a lot of like little things, perhaps?
Not assuming that it's just lamp and desert, because I think that's where my head was that entire time, is just lamp and desert because of where the mirror was. And
Mhm.
read the logic just that little bit better, I think.
Well, yeah, in this case, I mean, you both read it, I think, kind of the same way. I mean, it was one of those things like, oh, well, of course it is. It turns out to be myths rather than lamp, but in the heat of the moment, yeah, it's like it's easy. I know from experience to kind of get tunnel visioned on these things. So, any other final thoughts? I think before we wrap this up.
Well, 8-Bit, it's on you. Now I pass on the wishes of everyone that I've beaten who have asked me to win the tournaments, and now it's on to you.
I will do my best.
Right. So yeah, so if you haven't already, do give our runners a follow today. This was putting on a show there, and you can give our trackers, Homewrecker and Yoinker's wife, follows as well, and myself, Pro007, and my co-com, me and DM for comms. It was a pleasure as always to work with you.
Absolutely, I had a blast, and thank you both Zenarcane and latebit for agreeing to be restreamed here. There is no show without the runners. Much appreciation.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Well, thanks,
I should
everyone.
probably also say that, it was maybe a little short at an hour 16 and change, but thank all of you in chat for coming out and giving us an hour and change of your time on this Saturday afternoon or evening or whatever it is for you. It's fun to put on the show, but it's more fun when people actually do want to watch it. So, Pro A, I'll throw it back to you, and then ultimately we'll throw it to Siberian.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very lively chat, and good luck to latebit in the semifinals, and I'm sure it'll be another terrific best of three. So, thanks all, and we'll see you all again soon.
And next up here on ZSR, to give you a short preview what's up on for the rest of today, we have a Skyward Sword randomizer match here on this channel in about 25 minutes. Also in 25 minutes we plan a Wind Waker randomizer tournament settings race. It's a weekly of their community. At 6 PM Eastern we have the Ocarina of Time Standard Weekly NA, and tomorrow we have at 9 AM Eastern the Ocarina of Time Randomizer Weekly EU, and at noon we have another Link to the Past Randomizer Challenge Cup. It's the first quarterfinals match between Mayaneko and Fant. Make sure to also check our schedule for more Zelda content. And I can't write schedule correctly. Here we go. We are raiding over to the ZSR main channel, where we have a charity race with Ocarina of Time randomizer crowd control between Tresco and Void. Make sure to cheer them up and come back for more Zelda content here on ZSR. See you next time.